Hello everyone, Phoenix Knight here. Welcome to the channel, and welcome to a new playthrough on the channel. After we visited the Twilight Imperium universe with Twilight Inscription last week, we're going to pay a visit to Gravehold. They need our help once again from the Nameless as we play Aeon's End. Our goal in this game is to defeat our nemesis before either Gravehold gets overrun or we get defeated. With that high level view, let's go meet our nemesis for tonight. Here's our nemesis for tonight, the Thrice-Dead Prophet. Starts off with 40 health, as we can see by the number, and I've got the dial set for that as well. When he unleashes, Thrice-Dead Prophet gains 5 life, then if it has 60 or more life, it gains 1 Nemesis token. Then some additional rules to note. At the end of the Nemesis turn, if Thrice-Dead Prophet has 4 or more Nemesis tokens, discard the top card of the Nemesis deck, and Thrice-Dead Prophet loses 4 Nemesis tokens. Thrice-Dead Prophet has no maximum life. When Thrice-Dead Prophet has 99 or more life, it ascends to immortality and the players lose. When the Nemesis deck is empty, the Thrice-Dead Prophet has completed the final ritual and the players lose. So normally when the Nemesis deck runs out, we actually win. So we do need to keep that in mind, but anyway. And on the back, we see that there's a little bit of, that there's no setup here, but we do have some flavor text on here. It was thought impossible to kill the Nameless, yet we did just that. Or so we thought. The first time we slew the Prophet, it seemed all too easy. It shambled out of the void, its massive body clad in the faces of gods we no longer remembered. We were upon it quickly, like a swarm of scarabs upon a carcass. It did not fight back, or so it seemed. And in our haste, we thought ourselves the victor. The second time we fought the creature, its minions put us to our paces. Freyla, an inexperienced mage, met her end that day, crushed under the enormity of the thing as it fell dead once more. In some death spasm, it took out an entire section of the south wall and 20 others with it. The third time was meant to be the last. A sparrow lopped off its faceless head, but it mattered not. Without you, I think that's Yan. Without Yan, Magda, and the others, Gravehold would have met its end that day. The Prophet lay still as stone for an hour this time. Then, from the stump of its neck, the Umbra Titan emerged. This beast took 9 more mages' lives before Ulgamor forced it into the depths. And that was our only victory that day. The accidental creation of Ulgamor. We now know that each victory was merely a feint, a test of our mettle and skill. Let the 4th time the Prophet dies be its last and final death. Indira, Breach Apprentice. That's going to be fun, so we have to deal with the Thrice-Dead Prophet that likes to gain life on us. Delightful. Anyway, with that, let's meet the Magi who are going to be trying to take out this Thrice-Dead Prophet for good. Once more, my Magi from Aeon's End Legacy have appeared to defend Gravehold. So player 1 today will be Celidia. So she was, like I said, these are the two of the mages that I've created in my playthroughs of Aeon's End Legacy. Now, I was going to say this at the end of the video, but I might as well say it now. Part of the reason I put this video here is because I'm debating potentially running through Aeon's End Legacy as a new background campaign. With the End of the Hero Realms background campaign looming large, I'm looking for a new background content I can run on the channel, and I've got a reset copy of Aeon's End Legacy all ready to go. So this game's going to serve as something of a dry run for that. But anyway, we can see the starting configuration of Celidia's breaches. Breach 1 is open, 2 is 1 to the left, 2 and 3 are both 1 to the left, 4 is on the bottom. Anyway, so we'll take a look at Celidia's sheet. Her special abilities are Vengeful Shadows. When you cast 2 or more spells during your casting phase, gain 1 Aether, which is the currency that we'll use to buy anything, so more on that in a minute. Then Power Word Silence. Once per turn during your main phase, you may discard a card in hand. If you do, silence a minion. Then Will of the High Priestess, which takes 6 charges to activate. Gain a spell from any supply pile. You may place that spell into any ally's hand, and any ally gains 2 charges. Like I said, that takes 6 charges to activate, but don't sleep on Power Word Silence. I would be stunned if I don't lean into that ability to deal with any minions that might come out of the Nemesis deck, especially toward the end of the game, but I'm getting more than a little bit ahead of myself there. We'll bring the player 1 and the 10 health back over. And Celidia's starting hand will consist of a regular spark, 3 crystals, and her custom spell, Celidia's Spark. When you cast it, deal 1 damage. If your discard pile contains 4 or more cards, deal 2 additional damage and gain an ether. So anyway, that will do it for Celidia. Now let's go meet her partner. If you didn't guess as soon as I said Aeon's End Legacy, her Celidia's partner for this game, like the last time we played this on the channel, is Nyrissia. So her breach configuration is the same. We'll take a look at her ability as well. She'll be player 2, by the way. So her abilities are... First up, we have Dark Blessing. Once per turn during your main phase, you may discard a card in hand. If you do, deal 1 damage. Then we have Rage of the Sith. Once per turn, when you focus or open a breach, deal 2 damage. And then, like Celidia's special ability, Nyrissia's takes 6 charges. Netherlord's Wrath, which she has to activate during her main phase. Cast any player's prep spell without discarding it. That spell deals 1 additional damage, and a player returns a spell in their discard pile to their hand. So we'll get that for Nyrissia. Then we'll take a look at her starting hand. Similar to Celidia's, along with her special card, Nyrissia's Fury. On cast, deal 1 damage, gain 1 ether that you can only use to gain a spell, and you gain a charge. So we can potentially get to activating her special ability very quickly, but getting a little bit ahead of myself on that front. Last up, we need to go take a look at the market. As always, our market when we play a game of Aeon's End consists of 3 gems, 2 relics, and 4 spells. So let's look at the gems first. Soothing Torporine for 3 ether. Either gain 2 ether or silence a minion. Then we have a Phased Portalite for 4. Gain 2 ether plus an additional 1 if your 3 breach is open. And just a simple Jade. 2 ether, and then when you play it, you gain 2. Then 2 relics. We have the Manifold Container for 4 ether. Gain 1. The next time you gain a card this turn, you may also gain a card that costs less than the gained card. Then the Scholar's Opus. Gain a charge. If there are 7 or more cards in your discard pile, gain 1 additional charge. And then we have 4 spells. We have our favorite Bending Beam for 5 ether. That'll combo nicely with the Phased Portalite. Deal 2 damage. If this spell was cast from an opened 3 breach, deal 3 additional damage. Then we have Phoenix Flame for 3. Deal 2 damage on cast. You may lose 1 charge to deal 2 additional damage. Planar Insight for 6. Deal 2 damage plus 1 per open breach. And Force Transfusion. Deal 3 damage. If you have 3 or more charges, gain a charge. So a pretty reasonably priced market, I would say, but we'll see how that translates in this game. Anyway, we're all set to go, so let's move back up top and get into this game. Turn order in this game is actually decided via a turn order deck. So you can see here we've got 2 cards for both players, and then the Nemesis turns. We've got 2 cards for the Nemesis. So, we'll go ahead and give this a shuffle. And a cut. And this one will start the game, so we'll start off with player 1. So let's drop down to Celidia. We'll get this party started with a Celidia's Spark on breach 1. Then we'll spend her 3 crystals for 3 ether to open her 2 breach outright. And then we'll prepare a regular spark to it. I'll get the Gravehold dial out of the way. We'll move that to the discard pile. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. We see we've got more ether and sparks coming. But anyway, nice and short setup turn for Celidia. So let's see what card is coming up. Who's coming up next? It's right back here with Celidia. So with that, we can go ahead and spark the Thrice-Dead Prophet for 1, bring him down to 39. Then we'll hit him for another 3 to bring him down to 36 off the bat. So 36. And we get an ether. And I'll go ahead and prepare 2 more sparks to her 2 open breaches. And we've got 3 crystals, which actually gives us 4 ether. So I think we'll go ahead and... I definitely want her 3 breach open sooner rather than later. But I think we'll go ahead and take a Force Transfusion right now. And we'll stack it like this. Yep. And then she's going to be drawing back up right off the bat. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And we got another good hand coming up. But anyway, next up in the turn order, player 2. So this is actually kind of a good and a bad thing because we're getting off to something of a jump, but on the same token, we're potentially going to have the Nemesis going twice in a row. But I can't think about that right now. Let's move over to Nyrissia. Casting phase, nothing happens in the casting phase. Now we're into the main phase, so I'll prep Nyrissia's Fury to her 1 breach. Then I'll use 2 crystals to focus her 2 breach, which will deal another 2 damage to the Thrice-Dead Prophet, bringing him down to 34. Then, since I focused this breach, I'll actually prepare a spark to it, but I have to cast it on Nyrissia's next casting phase. Then I'll dump the crystal for another 1 damage to bring this Thrice-Dead Prophet down to 33. So I can move this over to the discard pile. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And we'll see Nyrissia has her identical second hand. But anyway, next up in the turn order deck we find our first Nemesis turn, so let's move up to the Thrice-Dead Prophet. Main phase in the Nemesis turn, we'd resolve anything that's already out on the board, but since nothing's out, we'll just go ahead and draw the top card of the deck, so we will draw. Hex of Vulnerability. To discard, spend 6 ether. Power 3. Place this card next to the player with the most life. For the rest of the game, when that player suffers damage, they suffer 1 additional damage. Can't be removed once resolved. So we'll get the 3 power tokens out for that, and we're going to need to find 6 ether in a hurry, but nothing we can do about that now. Next up, Nemesis, so it's a good thing we're right here. Anyway, so now the Hex of Vulnerability ticks down, and then we find Immortal Triumph. Oh joy. Power 3. If Thrice-Dead Prophet has 40 or less life, Gravehold suffers 7 damage. Otherwise, Thrice-Dead Prophet gains 3 Nemesis tokens. The first time we killed it, we were surprised. The second time, we rejoiced. The third time, we had Quillis kill it again to be certain. Desmodia, Voidborn Prodigy. Alright, so basically that's got three turns before it's going to go off, but it's not going to hurt us right now terribly, but anyway. Next up, gee, I wonder who this could be. Hey, look at that. It's Nyrissia, so let's drop back down to Nyrissia. Casting phase, we have to cast the spark that we prepped to Nyrissia's Focus 2 breach. We'll hit the boss with it for another 1, bringing him down to 32. Then we will hit him with Nyrissia's Fury to hit him for another 1, bringing him down to 31. And now we've got 1 ether as well that we can only use to gain a spell. Speaking of which, we've got a spark to prepare. I've got 3 ether, and I'll discard a spark to deal another damage to the boss, bringing him down to 30. Let's see, 3 ether, 4 to gain a spell. Oh, and from Nyrissia's Fury, Nyrissia should have a charge. Speaking of charges, I think we'll grab her a Force Transfusion. Then we'll move this all to the discard pile, flip it all over. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. See that we're probably going to have a pretty good turn coming up this coming turn, but anyway, with that, that's the end of round 1. Let's move back up top to take a look at how the board state's changed. Celidia's got her 2 breach open, has got her 2 breach open as it has 2 sparks prepared to each of them. Nyrissia's focused her 2 breach to where she can open it on her next turn potentially, and she's got a spark prepared. We've also already managed to cut into the Thrice-Dead Prophet's health considerably, but we've also got a Hex of Vulnerability and an Immortal Triumph out. Neither of which are completely catastrophic, but I can tell we're definitely going into full race mode very early. I want to try to take this Thrice-Dead Prophet out before the healing turns into too big of a problem. But anyway, we will need the turn order deck to start round 2. See if we can keep doing further damage to the boss on that. Anyway, first card in the next pass through the turn order deck we find. Player 1, let's drop down to Celidia. 2 more sparks will hit the Thrice-Dead Prophet for 2 more damage, bringing him down to 28. I want to try to get a jump before he starts doing a lot of healing. Anyway, we'll go ahead and prepare Celidia's Spark to a 2 breach, regular Spark to a 1 breach, and we've got 3 ether to buy with. So I think we'll just go ahead and focus her 3 breach. Like I said, I want that open as fast as I can get it, but we also need to keep an eye on, at the very least, that Hex of Vulnerability. We need to keep an eye on that Hex of Vulnerability. We're not going to be able to do anything about that Immortal Triumph. Okay. Wait, did I give that... I thought I gave that Force Transfusion to Nyrissia. Oh well. I'll have to double check that in editing, but anyway. The next up, Nemesis turn, so let's move up to the Thrice-Dead Prophet. Before we jump into the Thrice-Dead Prophet's turn, I did go back and check the footage. Turns out Celidia did buy her own Force Transfusion, so never mind, panic averted. Anyway, Thrice-Dead Prophet's turn, tick down, tick down. Then coming out of the Nemesis deck next we find Fate Leech. Oh joy. Persistent, any player suffers 1 damage, Thrice-Dead Prophet gains 1 Nemesis token. Delightful. So he's actually going to need to go pretty soon. I wanted to try to keep damage on the Nemesis as much as I could, but he needs to go. I don't want Thrice-Dead Prophet gaining a lot of Nemesis tokens, because as we see, those do heal him. But anyway, next up, player 1. So let's drop right back down to Celidia. Unfortunately, I can't just stop that Fate Leech right now. What I can do, though, is I'll go ahead and hit him for 2 right away, and Celidia will gain an ether. So the Fate Leech will drop down to 4. See, then I'll prep a Force Transfusion for a 2 breach, a Spark to a 3 breach, and because I cast 2 spells, I have an extra ether, so I'll actually discard a crystal here to silence the Fate Leech, because this is... So I want to see if I can keep the... I want to try to keep that at bay for the time being, because 3 ether will still let me go ahead and open my 3 breach. But anyway, 1, 2, 3, 4, and this all turns over for 5. And we see Celidia is going to be able to do a decent amount of damage, but anyway, let's see what comes out of the turn order deck next. Nemesis, so Nyrissia will get to go twice in a row. Anyway, let's move up to the Thrice-Dead Prophet. Ticks down, the Hex of Vulnerability goes off. We'll put that next to Celidia, and we definitely need to race. Immortal Triumph ticks down. Fate Leech tries to activate, but it can't, so its Silence token comes off. And then flipping over, we find Rouse. Any player suffers 4 damage. Thrice-Dead Prophet gains 1 Nemesis token. Yowza! Well, since we just put the Hex of Vulnerability next to Celidia, I'll have Nyrissia suffer that. So Nyrissia will take 4 damage. And the Thrice-Dead Prophet, if I can stop being a klutz, we'll gain its first Nemesis token. And then just to remove the suspense, we'll see that we do have 2 player 2 cards in a row. So with that, let's drop down to Nyrissia for 2 turns. Alright, we'll spark the... Let's spark the Fate Leech down for 1. Then taking a look at Nyrissia's turn, we will... I'll prep Nyrissia's... Actually, no. Let's do this. Let's go ahead and spend 2 Ether to open... Actually, we'll spend 3 to focus Nyrissia's 3 Breach, which when I focus a Breach, I'll deal 2 damage, 2 more to the Fate Leech. Then I'll focus the... Then I'll prep a Spark and Nyrissia's Fury to her... I'll prep a Spark to her 1 Breach and Nyrissia's Fury to her focused 3 Breach. Then I'll move all of this over to the discard pile. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Alright, and then we'll go right into Nyrissia's next turn. So I'll use the Spark to take out the Fate Leech, thankfully. Which means I can then point the Nyrissia's Fury at the boss for 1 to bring him down to 27. And Nyrissia will gain another charge. And she's got 1 Ether that she can only use to acquire a spell. Which I'm probably going to let float away because I'll use her 3 Ether to focus, to open her 3 Breach, which will actually hit the boss for another 2 damage thanks to Rage of the Sith. To bring the boss down to 25. And then I'll prep a Spark to a 3 Breach, or to her 1 Breach, and the Force Transfusion to her 3. So we'll move all of that over to the discard pile. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay, we're going to do some, well, decent-ish damage, but anyway. With that, let's move back up top to see how the board states changed for round 3. Both 3 breaches are open, but Nyrissia's 2 breach is still closed. Additionally, Celidia also has Hex of Vulnerability next to her, so whenever she takes damage, she's taking 1 extra damage. Nyrissia's got a Force Transfusion on her open 3 breach and a Spark on her 1. Celidia's got a Spark on her 1 and a Force Transfusion on her 2. Looking up at the Thrice-Dead Prophet, he's got 1 Nemesis token toward discarding the top card of the Nemesis deck, and then Immortal Triumph is going to go off on his next turn through the turn order deck. But with that, we need the deck once again, so we can start round 3. And here we will find that we're starting with player 2, so let's go down to Nyrissia. We'll use the Force Transfusion to hit the boss for 4 to bring him down Actually, we'll use the Spark as well right at the boss, so that's a total of 5 damage, which we've already taken the boss down by half health, and it's only round 3. So we'll prep both of her Sparks to her 1 and her 3 breach. Then we'll use 2 Ether to open her 2 breach, which will hit the boss for another 2 damage, bringing the boss down to 18. And then we'll discard this crystal to hit the boss for another 1 to bring him down to 17. And that will do it there. 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. And we see that we've definitely got firepower for days coming. But anyway, we need to see what we can do with it, because first up we find... Next up, Nemesis. So let's move up to the Thrice-Dead Prophet. Immortal Triumph ticks down and goes off. So as we look, Thrice-Dead Prophet definitely has 40 or less life. He's at 17 right now, so Gravehold will suffer 7 damage, bringing Gravehold down to 23. And then off the top of the deck we find Banesire, 6 health, Persistent Unleash. Delightful. So we'll get the 6 health out. I'm actually not that scared of Unleash right now, to be... Well, aside from the gaining 5 life. That part makes me a little bit nervous, but anyway. Next card up out of the turn order deck. Player 2, so let's go back down to Nyrissia. In deciding what to do about that Banesire, I could make arguments in either direction. If I think I'm gonna kill Thrice-Dead Prophet before that Banesire becomes a problem, I can use Celidia's Power Word Silence to hold him at bay while I just pound on the Thrice-Dead Prophet. If, on the other hand, I think that Banesire is going to turn into a problem, I should probably take it out now. In fact, I've got enough spells prepared that I could very easily do that. That, honestly, might be the safer play. Just put damage on the Banesire and count on Celidia coming up next. Yeah, let's go ahead and do that. So I'll use both sparks. This one's from an open 3 breach to hit the Banesire for a total of 3 damage to bring him down to 3. Then looking at Nyrissia's hand, I'll prep a Force Transfusion to her 3, Nyrissia's Fury to her 2, and what do I do with the 3 Ether? Honestly, I think it's just gain another charge and discard the 3rd crystal to hit Banesire for another damage. Bring him down. Well, actually, no. I think rather than hit the Banesire with that discard, I'll just hit the boss with it, because if Celidia comes up next, she can wipe out that Banesire. She can wipe out the Banesire with her Force Transfusion that she's already got prepared. So anyway, we can move all of that to the discard pile. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Take a quick look at Nyrissia's hand. Okay. And then going to the turn order deck, we find... Perfect. This worked out as well as I could have hoped. So let's move back. Let's move down to Celidia. Sticking with the safe plan, we'll Force Transfusion to take out the Banesire, just because I didn't want that to turn into a big problem. Then we'll spark the boss for 1 down to 15. Then we'll prep Celidia's Spark. I think we're getting ready to shuffle. Yes, we are getting ready to shuffle the deck, so this isn't great, but we'll prep Celidia's Spark to her 1, a regular Spark to her 3, a regular Spark to her 2, and we've got 3 Ether to buy with, which will be... I think it'll be a Phoenix Flame. Honestly, I'm not bothering too much with building up the deck buying power, just because I figured we were going to be in full race mode anyway. So we'll take a look at Celidia's hand. We've got our firepower coming again, but looking at the turn order deck we find... Player 1 again, so let's stay right here with Celidia. Unfortunately, we did just flip her deck over, so Celidia's Spark only does 2 to the boss. Spark will do another 1 for 3 to 12. Then I'll prepare her Force Transfusion to her 3, Spark to her 2, and I've got 3 Ether to buy with. I think that 3 Ether will go into another Phoenix Flame. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. This time her... Well, actually, her Celidia Spark would have done something if we had anything there. But anyway, just to take away the suspense, we have the Nemesis. So let's move up to the Thrice-Dead Prophet. Nothing's going on here, so the Thrice-Dead Prophet turns over. A much-needed unleash for Thrice-Dead Prophet, sad as it sounds. Gravehold suffers 2 damage, any player suffers 1. So Thrice-Dead Prophet actually gains 5 life. Going up, other way. Going back up to 17. Then Gravehold suffers 2 damage down to 21. And then any player suffers 1. I'll actually have Celidia take that because taking 2 damage right now isn't that scary. But anyway, let's move back up top for the start of round 4. One, 2, and 3 breaches are open all around. And honestly, I think we're starting to come down to the nitty-gritty of it. Barring any more surprise unleashes, we can probably kill the Thrice-Dead Prophet in, I would say, 2 rounds at the most. But that's kind of me being maybe just a touch cocky. So, tipping up to the Thrice-Dead Prophet, and we'll zoom in just a touch, we'll see that he is at 17 life right now with one Nemesis token. The only reason he's at 17 right now is because of that unleash that he just got off of ambush. But anyway, let's go ahead and zoom back out. Grab the turn order deck once again. And we'll shuffle this up. Like I said, we're definitely in a situation where barring a series of unleashes, we are probably defeating the Thrice-Dead Prophet in the next couple of rounds. Let's see what we find here. We find player 2. Let's drop down to Nyrissia. Force Transfusion hits the Thrice-Dead Prophet for 4, bringing him down to 13. Actually, I'll just bring him down to 12 because the Spark will also be hitting him in the face. Or Nyrissia's Fury, I should say. We'll also gain an Ether that gives him a spell, that gives her a spell. And Nyrissia gains 2 charges, one from the Force Transfusion for having 3 or more charges, and a charge from Nyrissia's Fury. So, we'll prep Sparks here, and we've got 4 Ether to buy with if we want a spell, and I think we want another Force Transfusion, but I don't think the game is going to last too much longer. Anyway, 1, 2, 3, 4... 5. Alright, out of the turn order deck we find the Nemesis, so let's move up to the Thrice-Dead Prophet. We undid the Thrice-Dead Prophet's last unleash. Let's hope we don't get another one. Needlemaw, 11 health, persistent, Gravehold suffers 2 damage. The teeth of this beast make a fine trophy. The trick is keeping all your fingers in the taking of them. Reeve, Breachmage Elite. So Gravehold suffering 2 damage isn't even really that problematic right now. I think we just ignore that and just pound the Thrice-Dead Prophet. The only thing I was really scared of was a surprise unleash, but as long as we get a Nemesis card that doesn't involve an unleash, we probably win, I would say, this round. But let's find out. Let's see what we get out of the turn order deck. We find Nemesis again. So I'll start off with the Persistent on Needlemaw. Gravehold will suffer 2 damage. Bringing Gravehold down to 19. And then here's the moment of truth. If he doesn't unleash, I wouldn't say we just win this round, but we'll be very close to it. We find Chrysalis Shield. If Thrice-Dead Prophet has 40 or less life, unleash 3 times. Otherwise, it gains 3 Nemesis tokens. So power 2 on that one. But I think we dodged a bullet on this one because we need 12 more damage. And yeah. So we've got, these will all be player turns left. So let's find out what we've got here. Player 2. So let's drop back down to Nyrissia. We'll go ahead and hit the boss for 3 damage with these 2 sparks, bringing him down to 9. Like I said, I don't think we just win here, but I think we come very close. So anyway, I'll prepare a Force Transfusion to her 3 breach, a spark to her 2 breach, and I've got 3 crystals to buy with. Actually, we might just win here because I'll use these 2 to gain a charge. And then I'll activate Nyrissia's Netherlord's Wrath. So cast any player's prep spell without discarding it. That spell deals 1 additional damage. And any player with it returns a spell in their discard pile to their hand. So I'll go ahead and cast Celidia's Force Transfusion, which from a 3 breach will deal another 4 damage. Bringing the boss down to... So 4 damage. Actually, that's... Hold on. 3, 4, 5 damage, actually. So I lied. So we do just win here. So that brings us down to 4. Then I'll discard a crystal to hit the boss for another 1 to raid to a Dark Blessing to bring him down to 3. And I'm still going to do this by the book, but 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And just to not bother with the suspense, we have 2 player 1 cards. So let's move over to Celidia. Not too much suspense needed here, but the Force Transfusion off of the 3 breach will hit the Thrice-Dead Prophet down. Technically to -1, but 0 is as low as we can go. So anyway... This game's over, and surprisingly, and it's quite a shockingly quick fashion, actually. We have won this game. So anyway, let's move back up top to wrap this video up. So that was actually surprisingly easy, I would say. It helped that we got off to a very fast start against Thrice-Dead Prophet, and I was pretty much just in total race mode from the word go. But I was expecting him to unleash a little bit more, but we mostly kept the unleash minions at bay. But actually, no, I take that back. We blasted them. I didn't end up leaning as much on Power Word Silence as I thought I would, but anyway, that will do it for this playthrough of Aeon's End. This might not have been the best Nemesis to test with, but I do still think I can probably make Aeon's End Legacy work as potentially background campaign on Wednesday nights, but I may do another playthrough of this a little bit in a couple of months with what I think will be a longer Nemesis. Maybe I'll bring these 2 against Rageborn and see what happens, but anyway, that's a thought, just so I can get a truer focus on the time that a game of this would actually take. But anyway, like I said, that will do it for this playthrough of Aeon's End Legacy. So let's go ahead and wrap this video up. This video actually went pretty short, so tonight I'm going to record a product unboxing on the channel that I think will probably also go up tonight. Then tomorrow we'll have we need to upgrade the decks for the winter campaign. Then Sunday, we'll see the winter campaign for Arkham Horror, the card game, continue as we venture into the heart of madness. As for next week, we're going to step back into another familiar universe as we play Terra Mystica. Thank you for watching the video. Please give the video a thumbs up and subscribe to the channel. Be sure to turn on notifications so you get my content. Be well, stay safe, take care of yourselves and your loved ones, and I'll be back with more videos in the future. Until then, take care everyone.